Welcome to Perimeter Institute and the Inspiring Future Women in Science Conference. My name is Kelly Foyle, and I'm a physicist and member of Perimeter's educational outreach team. It's tremendously inspiring to see this room filled with young women who are curious about the world and passionate about science and eager to make important contributions. We also have additional guests watching online through our webcast, including Pauline Johnson Collegiate and Vocational School in Brantford and Elsie McGill Secondary School in Milton. Thank you to all of you joining us here and online. You're the future of women in science, and this conference is about you and it's for you. I'm eager to hear your comments and your questions throughout the session. We're also pleased to welcome Linamar Corporation as the presenting sponsor of this conference. We have an exciting morning ahead. We're honored to have 20 amazing and inspiring women who have followed a STEM career with us here today, supporting and contributing to this event. Altogether, they represent over 250 years of work experience in their field. Although that may make us feel old, hopefully it will encourage you to learn as much as you can as they share their stories on how they pursued their paths and offer you advice and food for thought for your career ahead. In the next few hours, you're going to have the opportunity to learn as much as you can from them. Much of science, too, involves building on the work done before and learning from the experience of others. In the spirit of understanding and learning from what has come before, I would like to acknowledge that we are located on the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. Perimeter Institute is situated on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to 6 nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. As a young woman living in Canada, you are impacted by all that has come before, but you also have the opportunity to learn from the experiences and perspectives of a truly diverse community. I encourage you to ask questions and remain open to the thoughts, reflections, and wisdom of others while considering your own path for the future. Throughout the morning, we've tried to give you many opportunities to ask questions and talk directly to the speakers and the panelists and the mentors. Please take advantage of that opportunity. Again, this day is about you, so your participation and questions are what's really going to make this morning a success. I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker. Elisa Torres-Durney is a 19-year-old Chilean student and is the founder of Girls in Quantum, an organization dedicated to making quantum computing education accessible. Recognized by Forbes Chile's 30 Most Powerful Women and a top finalist for the Global Student Prize, Elisa is committed to advancing gender diversity in STEM and quantum computing. Please join me in welcoming Elisa Torres-Durney.
Hi everyone, how are you? I'm super excited to be here. I arrived yesterday here in Canada from North Carolina, so really happy to be here. And I hope that you're doing as well as I am right now, happy and looking forward to this session, to this day. So today I'm looking forward because I visited Perimeter Institute last year, and in 2023 actually, and I remember just listening to all these wonderful women, and I was just so inspired. So hopefully I can share a little bit about my story, how I started with Girls in Quantum, and also my STEM journey overall. So this is a bit about myself, about how I started my organization, Girls in Quantum, where we empower students to learn about this emerging technology, but also have been able to connect with different people around the world, and it has been a wonderful opportunity for me. So let's start. So a little about myself that I don't always share is that I love just being outside. I just love being curious and understanding more about how the world works, right? So being curious, creative, and questioning myself and other things has allowed me to just explore and be able to understand my real interests, which now I think is quantum computing, and also engineering. So I'm studying mechanical engineering at Duke. I started my first year. It has oh my God, so fast. But in last semester, I started studying mechanical engineering. I received a full scholarship to study at Duke, so I'm really thankful for the opportunity. At the same time, I always missed doing great activities such as gardening with my family, painting, being creative, and just allowing myself to just explore different things. And technology, at the same time, since I've been sort of exploring since a young age, has allowed me to just connect with wonderful students. There's a picture over there for this, actually was the same date, I think, just 2 years ago, where I connected with people from different fields, where they were able to share their experience with girls and students in Chile. So that's really beautiful, and that's one of the best things that I like about STEM. So yeah, so the natural habitat. You might think I've been always interested into coding or into STEM. The thing is that actually that was not the best representation, because I just remember being curious and asking myself questions. Okay, so what do I like? I really started just exploring my home. We had different plants, and I remember just like experimenting with soil. What is this? Bugs. I was just leaving a mess over there. But the idea was for me to understand, okay, what do I have here? What can I do with this, right? So that's one of the things that I will always try to encourage to others. Question yourself, question other things, be curious. So that's when I first heard about Scratch. I don't know if someone has heard about Scratch before. That's good, okay, good. So I was like, okay, let's start experimenting with things here. I remember I had no idea what I was doing, but some people started teaching me a little bit, and I was having fun. And I think that was the part that encouraged me to go with STEM, that I was able to explore first. I was able to ask questions, but I was also able to create and meet people that were doing the same as me. So that led me to just understand more, okay, if I take advantage of technological opportunities, why not just keep exploring and just looking for more opportunities online? So I just looked for different courses. I remember just here I was with my friend just like trying to experiment and find something in my computer that works. And I just had a lot of fun. This was just like entertaining for me. So I started looking at opportunities online. I took different courses. And in 2021, I took one particular course that has led me to be here right now. So it was Introduction to Quantum Computing. And you can say, well, first I want to ask, who knows about quantum computing here? Okay, that's good. But the thing is that I had no idea about quantum. I was like, what is this technology about? Is this even a technology? Like, how does it work? And the thing is that I quickly looked up, okay, what is quantum computing online? I saw, okay, it's an emerging technology. It could be kind of mentioned as recent or new in comparison to our classical computers, which is like our phones or laptops and all those things, and that it can also help us to be much more efficient and fast solving other problems that our computers cannot do. So I was like, okay, this sounds good, let's do it. I applied. I had no idea, once again, I just like read that online. So I applied, and I ended up just participating in a program that was life-changing for me. So this online opportunity lasted 8 months for me, learning about quantum, learning about applications, that it's not only just physics, as it might sound, but it was much more than that. It was more about applications. What can we do with quantum computing? How can we impact drug development, for example, and help people with diseases? How can we accelerate logistics? So it was more about not just one area, but multiple. So I just was mesmerized and amazed. And at the same time, I said to myself, once I finished the program, okay, now it's time for me to just do something about it. I want to keep learning, I want to keep sharing knowledge, but at the same time, I want to connect people, because that was the main factor that I liked from the program. We were like thousands of students from 50 countries, so I was like, let's do that, but now in Chile. So I started with Girls in Quantum. I started in Chile with my own computer. I remember just starting to tell other people about it, and I sent, in the last day of the program, I sent a message to some people, and I told them, do you want to join? I'm doing this kind of program or initiative. Let's see what happens. And 4 people reached out. People from the United States, from Ethiopia, from Germany. And I was like, okay, this is off to a great start. I was emailing them, and we looked further for opportunities to keep teaching about quantum computing, but also to make it fun. Because if you're honest, quantum computing at first might sound really difficult. Like, what is this? Is this rocket science? Is this something that looks really difficult? And it might be, but there's also a lot of possibilities to make it fun and interactive. And what a better way than to learn with a community. So that's when I started Girls in Quantum. And so far, I think that's the whole inspiration of just learning from different women. There's a lot of people here from our team, from Pakistan, from India, from lots of countries that are part of our Girls in Quantum team that has helped this to make this possible. I'm so thankful for them. They're mentors, people that are founded the companies in quantum computing that have started nonprofit organizations, that they're PhDs, scientists all over, and they inspire me so much. And that's why I really wanted to keep them there, because they're my inspiration. And I might be talking about Girls in Quantum today as I founded it, but they are the main purpose of it. We work together, and I think that's one of the key lessons that I've learned so far, is that teamwork is one of the best things ever. How can we collaborate together, brainstorm, okay, what is the next project that we're gonna do? I remember talking when we started Girls in Quantum, I was like, okay, how do we make things accessible? How can quantum be more accessible to others? First, we wanted to include more women in the field. But also, I remember having a meeting with this girl, Rohini, in India, and she was like, what if we translate it to Tamil? And I was like, that's actually a great idea. Let's translate it to Tamil, but also to other languages. So we started Spanish, Tamil, French, of course, English. So there's a lot of different possibilities where we can not just only learn about quantum ourselves, but also make it accessible and help others learn about it and have the same enthusiasm. And yeah, you can see just wonderful people working with those quantum computers, just experimenting there, seeing these great machines and how do they work and how can they be more efficient in the future. And also the importance of just training different people like you, so talented, that can later work on those. So Girls in Quantum overall has been, first, such a challenge as well. I started in 2022, and I remember sending a lot of emails to people just to be able to go to schools, and have different partnerships as well with companies. And I remember sending thousands and hundreds of emails. And do you know how many responses did I get? I got just a few, like 3, I remember, from sending hundreds. And my face was, honestly, I was so disappointed. I was like, how is not everyone helping me? I really want to do something. Where's the youth empowerment? I was really disappointed. I even thought it was going to spam all my emails to just make me feel better. But I think that was not the point. For me, it was the response that I got. First, I received one response from someone that was able to tell me, like, hey, Lisa, let's do something together. Let's go to schools. And the second thing was that I didn't want to let myself down because I didn't receive any responses. That was, and I always like this word, rejection is redirection. So I love that. If I didn't receive responses, that doesn't mean that Girls in Quantum wasn't going to be impactful for others, but that I needed to focus on other priorities. And one of those was just contacting teachers and students and doing something really cool, which was also just recruiting people from all over the world. So thanks to that, resilience, the teamwork, and the lovely people that you've seen before, we've been able to create programs all around the world, just teach about quantum. We had this collaboration, for example, with Physics and Beyond last year. That was the second version of our research program, where we were able to teach students about quantum throughout 10 weeks. And they were able to develop wonderful projects, just learning from zero. They had no knowledge about quantum sometimes, to just developing their own projects about quantum, collaborating with their teams, and having fun, which was the main purpose. So I was so happy about it. We have created a lot of content or book about geopolitics, what's happening in the world of quantum, what are like countries doing, and governments also, how they're focusing on these new strategies to foster education. And also, one great collaboration that we did was with the White House. They were able to help us also democratize quantum computing education by showing this video where we did, does someone know Star Trek? Yeah, okay, okay, just to make sure. So we collaborate with LeVar Burton, with people from NASA and all over IBM as well, to help make quantum accessible, fun, and that in 5 minutes you can understand about quantum. So I would highly recommend you to watch this video afterwards. And of course, I cannot, of course, forget, it's about the Perimeter Institute collaboration that we did. That was in 2023 as well. I want to the first programs that we did was about also including more females in this field. We started talking with some people here in Waterloo University, and they were just spreading their insights and creating these great mentoring sessions for others to learn about quantum, even if they had no idea at first. So that was nice, and I think that also we collaborated with a Swiss researcher, and he was like, Elisa, I'm thinking I like about quantum. I'm doing a PhD in physics. Let's do something fun. Let's do something that is creative. I want to collaborate with you. And he developed this amazing game, which is Hop. And now it's available at CERN. It's available at different opportunities where he teaches about quantum, and he collaborated with us so we could distribute it around the world for free to students. So that's the thing. How can we explore, have fun? In my case, I started, okay, I like this. I was curious about quantum. I applied to this program, and I said then, okay, let's do something else, right? So that's the thing that in any topic, anyone could do. If you like mathematics, if you like science, if you like technology, anything, you have to pursue it. You have to continue and give yourself the chance to explore, and you never know what you might be able to achieve, You might be here next year. You never know, and that's a fun thing that I really love. And overall, I think the impact for me is the main thing. How we've been able to, once again, go to schools, learn from these wonderful women overall in the world, being able to do and host hackathons. Right now we're hosting a hackathon all across Latin America, and we hope to create a new one here in North America. We're collaborating with the United Nations, so I'm really excited for that because that helps us break these barriers and help us connect with people who really want to do science and just learn and connect with each other. So for me, that's the best takeaway. And I think that just having opportunities, crazy opportunities, I was able to go to the United Nations headquarters in Paris this year to the International Year of Quantum. And for me, that was a key milestone, not just because I was able to be there, because I was also be able to see in person people from my team that I've been working for years now in person. So that's the thing. Like, you can make an impact. You can just follow the things that you like and see the results that you can do. Nothing is impossible. I started with my computer back in Chile, where no one knew what was quantum about. And now I'm able to just connect with different people who are doing amazing in these areas. So I totally encourage you to just, the main takeaways here is continue to be curious, ask yourself the questions, and I always tell people that no matter how difficult you think something might be, the thing is that if you work with teams, if you work with peers, if you ask questions, if you ask for help, then you will be able to achieve it. The thing is that you have to work step by step, and then you'll see the progress. Then you can see, actually, I improved a lot from last year or from last month, and you can see the real results. So now, besides this keep going part, I would highly encourage you to just write 3 things that you would like to explore in the future. That you might say, oh, I'm actually really interested about it, but I haven't had the chance to explore it. Oh, this sounds really interesting. Perhaps I can just learn more about it. So write those 3 things, if you can do it, and then you'll be able to see them afterwards, and you'll be like, actually, okay, I need to do this. Let's do this together. Let's find someone in my classroom that might be also interested in this area, and let's do something about it. So yeah, let's keep going. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really thankful, and I'm also open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elisa. I'm going to encourage you guys, if you've got a question, please come down and form a line. I know it's always tough to be first, but I have a question, if I might. There's so much excitement around quantum computing, and I was just wondering, what are some of the problems that you're most excited about that quantum computers may be able to solve or at least contribute to?
For sure. Thank you so much for the question. So I would say, as you mentioned, there's a lot of applications that are really wonderful, and I would just love to keep learning about it. One of the main things for me is health. So I've seen a lot of people just concerned about, okay, certain diseases, especially scenarios where their family is involved as well. So that's very personal, and I've talked with certain people that are working in the medical field, and they've told me, hey, we're working now, for example, with IBM, and we've been able to work with biomedical researchers and also quantum computers to be able to work towards drug development. I was recently in Cleveland, Ohio, and they have this clinic where they have the actual quantum computer, so you can look it up. And they're working with that massive quantum computer in order to make things efficient and effective for people and to hopefully save lives. So I'm really looking forward to that and seeing how it evolves in the future.
Wonderful. Oh, we have a question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amogena Iwenikai. You talked about doing this stuff in 2022, and you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
And in that, you're about 16.
Yes.
So, okay, that's about my age. I want to ask, how was it as someone so young trying to bring that kind of impact to the world? Did you have like how were you able to encourage yourself to do it? And did you have setbacks or people telling you you're too young to do this?
For sure. So it was not, thank you for the question. So it was not easy at all because I remember starting as a 16-year-old and people were just like looking at me as a baby, right? Like, okay, what are you doing here? Sometimes I was planning to go to events and I was like all adults and I was like having a baby face, you know? So it was like, okay, so what is she doing here? Who is she with, you know? But the thing is that I didn't let myself down because of that. I was highly encouraged because I was like, okay, I'm the only one. And like, I was like, I'm the only one, you know? Like, I didn't tell myself, oh, I am the only one here. I said myself, I am the only one here, so I have the chance to make this impact or talk with other people, learn from them. Also, people are really open if you ask. If you're just curious about someone else's work, ask them about like, oh, what do you do? Or how do you get started? What has been like the main challenges and how were you able to go over them, right? So that was the main thing. Also, I was able to reach out to other people thanks to online opportunities. I was always like, okay, this program sounds interesting. Let's just message these people who's organizing it, right? So I wasn't scared about it at first because I didn't realize, okay, I might just email someone that is really busy. I was like, let's do it and let's see what can happen, right? So that was my experience.
Hi, I'm Viola, and I was just wondering, where did you get the idea to have some sort of like community for women? Like, where did you get the idea that women needed more kind of help in the scientific field?
Awesome. Nice question as well. I think mainly because in my course, I was just a little bit disappointed. I also found myself, okay, where are like the women? Where are like the girls, right? So I wanted to just feel more relatable, you know, and share this with others because I knew this was such a great field to explore that I said to myself, okay, why not just also make this initiative that I first thought about, Girls in Quantum, with this focus on girls, on inspiring them and just bringing them together. I wanted to just have fun with other people and show them that this is such an interesting field. So that's how I started Girls in Quantum, and just like connecting with people from all over the world. We have different time zones. Sometimes we connect later at night, or sometimes really early in the morning. Has been really beautiful to me, also with wonderful and powerful women.
Hi, my name's Crystal, and do you have any advice for furthering our knowledge in like the quantum physics field while we're still in secondary school?
Awesome. Yeah, for sure, 100%. So in our website, for example, girlsinquantum.com, or Instagram as well, and social media, and Discord, and YouTube channel, we have different platforms where we're able to share different resources, educational resources, where you might be able to learn about quantum, not just in a boring website that just like you can scroll down, but also in games. So we collaborated with people who have done like games with like, I don't know, different platforms that are really famous. There's also a Minecraft game. There's lots of opportunities for you to just learn about quantum, and you can just allow yourself, okay, I like this one, this method is better for me. We have interviews with people who have been working with quantum throughout the years, and there's really great things on our website. So I would highly encourage you to join our Discord, chat with our community, and just keep learning.
Okay, we can take one last question.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was just wondering how we can get involved in like your organization or like register for the hackathons and stuff like that.
Awesome. So I forgot to mention that. So great point. So you can definitely email us to girlsinquantum@gmail.com. You can reach out to me in speed mentoring session as well. I'm really happy to talk with anyone. And also Instagram, we're really open to chat. So how can you collaborate, or like as a volunteer as well? We have so many open positions. We've been able to. I remember talking with certain people, and they were like, "Oh, let's do content creation for this," and they've been recording videos that are like so great about quantum, and they've been able to help us. So that's one thing. And the second thing is just like, if you just want to learn and join Girls in Quantum, feel free to do it. Join our Discord, and also like ask us questions. Like we don't mind. Like I can answer as many questions as you want.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Elisa.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So we're now ready to start our panel discussion. I'd like to invite the panelists to come up to the stage and grab a seat. During this brief moment, if you feel like you need to stretch or just get some of the creaks out, if you've been feeling like you need to do that, you can kind of do that. In this session, we're going to dive a little deeper into a variety of STEM career paths. Our panelists are going to share how they got to where they are today and tell us a bit about their education and the choices they made along the way. We're fortunate to have 4 panelists representing a range of specialties and work experiences. You'll find them listed in your program, and in just a moment, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Okay? And again, we're going to encourage you to come up and ask questions at the mic, so don't wait too long. That way we can get right into questions when we begin. All right, thank you panelists for taking the time to join us today and share your experiences. To start things off, what I'm going to do is ask you to tell us a little bit about yourselves, your career path, and your education. And again, folks, please start to form a line right away. So Stephanie, let's start with you. Could you take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about your career and story?
Sure thing, Kelly. So I went to Waterloo for chemical engineering, and I went to Waterloo at the time. It was one of the only co-op programs, and that's how I got into heavy industry. So I really liked chemistry. I loved calculus. It's so elegant, and that's why I went into chemical engineering, and it turns out that was kind of the right start for me. But my focus was really an environmental focus. That was what really lit me up. So I ended up going deep into heavy industry in the steel industry, where everything is like just massive and the opportunity for impact was so big. And that's why I went into the steel industry. And I was there doing water treatment, energy management, acid regeneration, all kinds of things for 17 years. And at the end of that, I got to do some sort of new technology implementation. And then I went to work for another company called Next Generation Manufacturing Canada, which was doing advanced manufacturing project funding coast to coast to coast. So I worked with companies that 3D print brain cell tissue and make carbon negative concrete and everything in between. And it was just such a treat. And I'm new to my new role. I work at a place called Innovation Factory. And that is an organization that helps tech startups and entrepreneurs in the Hamilton-Halton regions. And I'm having a great time, so yeah.
Amazing, thank you. Erin.
Hi, my name's Erin Zimmerman. I am a science writer and by training an evolutionary biologist. I've taken a very circuitous route through having a career in science. I started out as an undergrad in theoretical physics at the University of Guelph. And late in my degree, on a lark, I took a botany elective, and I completely fell in love with plant science, to the point that I actually changed my program. I took a minor in physics and ended up getting my degree in plant biology. During my honors research, I was working on fungi that inhabit the roots of orchids, which I then segued into a master's in fungal genetics at the University of Montreal. Before moving back into plants with my PhD, which was in the evolutionary biology of legumes. When you think legumes, you probably think beans and peas, and you'd be right. But it's a very large and varied family, and the part of it that I worked on is actually like these huge canopy trees in the rainforest, which led to some interesting field work in South America, and also to getting to work at the Royal Botanical Gardens at Kew in England for a little bit. Following my PhD, I did a postdoc in the genetics of root structure. I had my first child during my postdoc and unfortunately found out that in some places, in some labs, there's still not a lot of accommodation or acceptance of mothers of young children in research. So I ended up leaving research at that point. But I didn't want to leave science at all. So I ended up moving into science writing and illustration, which were two things I'd actually kind of been doing for fun during my PhD. So now I write about plants. My first book, which I also illustrated, came out last year. It's about the importance of natural history research to preserving species in this time of extinction, and also about motherhood in science. I'm now working on my second book. I do freelance writing, and I'm also the editor of the Canadian Botanical Association Bulletin. So my career has very much been about trying to stay heavily involved in and contribute to the science that I love, plant biology, from a place outside of research and academia.
Great, wonderful. Katie Selena?
Hi everyone, my name is Katie Selena Sandoval. I'm a PhD candidate in neuroscience at McMaster University. I did my undergrads in psychology and neuroscience option at Bishop's University in Sherbrooke. It's about 2 hours away from Montreal. And I did my master's in psychology at the University of Calgary. And I am a first-generation grad student from a Latin American family. And I started getting into neuroscience at first when I was in high school because my dad passed away from cancer, brain cancer. And that was my first exposure to the brain. And then I also went through some mental health things related to that trauma that led me to want to understand better my own brain. And eventually I worked with children with autism. And I worked for 4 summers with them, and I just wanted to better understand the brain and how genetics is involved and environmental factors as well. And so right now I am doing research at McMaster on the role of oxytocin, better known as the love hormone, in social behavior and stress, and using genetic mouse lines that are gene risk of autism. And so I am happy to talk more about that, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
And Lucy.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucy. My pronouns are she and her. I am the founder and executive director of an organization called HackerGal. Our mission is to inspire and empower girls and gender diverse learners to explore the world of STEM. To start, my career path was not linear. I never knew what I wanted to do when I was your age, or even when I was thinking about university or college. I knew that I liked business. I knew that I liked talking to people, but I had no idea. So I did my undergrad at the University of Waterloo. I was born and raised in Kitchener, so I'm super excited to be back here in this space. I did an undergrad in environment and business, which was really cool because there was a co-op component to it, which allowed me to learn a lot about what the space looked like, network, meet with professionals to really understand if this is what I wanted to do. When I was an undergrad, I realized very quickly that this wasn't my passion. I completed my degree, great all around, but the beautiful thing about our community in the Waterloo region is that there's so much opportunity. There's a lot of tech here. There's a lot of startups here. I landed my first job at a local startup company with a company of 9 people at the time. I knew the CEO there. He was younger than me at the time, which was really, really cool. He was like, Lucy, do you want to join and do operations at the company? And I was like, what's operations? What does that mean? But it really led me to explore what I knew I liked and what I didn't like. I grew the organization as part of the leadership team to 40 before I decided to move to Toronto and work in venture capital. So a lot of folks might know Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, where a lot of companies are pitching their ideas to investors for funding and seed funding, et cetera. And that's where I really found my passion for innovation, for technology, for what technology can do for the world. And I was like, there's not enough women in this space. There's so much opportunity in this space. When I looked around boardrooms and businesses and people that were starting businesses, I was like, wow, women really do have a superpower, and we're not focusing in on that. And that's what led me to start HackerGal, which is my passion. It's been almost 10 years growing this organization. Through the work at HackerGal, I've been able to travel the country country and meet communities all over Canada, West Coast to East Coast, that have invited us into their space, teachers, students, to really encourage more girls to explore what STEM can do for them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I see already we've got some folks standing up to ask some questions, so let's turn it over to you.
Hi. I was wondering, you guys have talked a lot about these fields being very male-dominated. How do you advocate for gender equality when you face sexism, when a lot of those males will accuse you of being angry, uncooperative, when really they're the ones that are being sexist?
Is there someone that wants to? Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know if Lucy wanted to go.
Yeah.
So first off, male-dominated. I prefer gender imbalanced. I think they've done a little branding there where they are dominant, but I have to say that I would argue that women dominate as well. It is a constant. It's just a constant sort of like every little thing that you do, you're trying to like make a mark or encourage somebody. Like it is such a treat to be here today and speak with you. But I have found that I've also had a lot of advocates. I've had mentors, male and female, and some of the male mentors that I've had have been the most impactful in my career. So there's always fighting the good fight, and it is still an issue, as you rightly said, but we got to bring everybody to the table too. So I don't know that answered your question, but I feel you, absolutely. And I think finding your people is the best way to sort of move through that. I was really, there were not a lot of women on the steel shop floor, I'm gonna be honest. And it was an absolute like honor to work with them, like shoulder to shoulder. And so we really carried ourselves through together. That's what I would say, find your people.
Amazing. Lucy, did you want to
I would love to add to it. It's truly fighting the good fight. I think it's really leaning in your own confidence, knowing who you are as a person and what you bring to the table. It's hard because imposter syndrome is very real. I still experience it day to day. But I think it's about really understanding what you bring to the table and showing your value. And yes, sometimes you have to feel like you insert yourself or have to find those opportunities. But find your community. There's so many people out there that would love to support you if you reach out and ask questions. And the first step is being here. There's so many people in the room that support you and believe that women bring such a unique perspective to the space.
Okay, let's take our next question.
Hi, I was just wondering, like, how do you know if you've gone on the wrong path? Like, if you go in to do your undergrad and then you realize, I don't really like this, is it very easy to switch your undergrad, or does that define the way you have to live the rest of your life?
Erin, I thought
I'm
of
happy
you.
to take this one. Having switched to my major most of the way through my undergrad, it really isn't that hard. I mean, I struggled with it emotionally a lot because I felt like I'm quitting something. But you don't need to know when you are 17, 18, 19 years old what you want to do with the rest of your life. And I think you know in your gut if you're in the wrong place. And universities, I mean, they see this a lot. They will make it as easy as possible for you to make that shift. And it's better when you realize to make that change than try to force yourself down what you know is the wrong path. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I was just wondering, like, have you guys ever actually had like a moment in your career where, like, you say maybe this isn't for me, and then you just kind of go back to it?
I don't know about going back to it, but because I'm still there, many times, if not every other month, I question my sanity and I question if I'm at the right place. And something I started doing in undergrad is journaling and having my support, my people, that I always let them know why I love something. And so, sometimes one day you're doing that one thing that is just so meaningful. And you say, this is why I'm here. And you write it down. And you let other people know, so that when the day you doubt yourself about why you even started, you go back to that moment. And you start building so many of those moments that you know that you're meant to be doing that. And it's okay to change as well. It's okay to decide that you're gonna, diverge a little bit and go explore something else. We were talking about that earlier. Be flexible. Be open to new experiences. And if what you're truly meant to be doing is what you started with, you'll come back. There's no way you're not gonna come back because you're gonna feel it inside of you. It's hard to explain, but I think that's the way I've approached it.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I'm going to add on just a little bit if you don't mind. I think you're right, and I think it's almost like flowing like water. So I've bumped up against like rocks or barriers, but I've been able to sort of find a new path forward. And when I say like water, I mean like relentless, like a river that is cutting through the land. That is how I've kind of viewed it. Like they're not going to stop you. You'll just have to find another way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's what I wanted to say.
And just to add to that too, yeah, there's so many times when I was building this organization where I thought I was not on the right path. I was like, who am I to change the world? Like, who am I to make impact this way? Who am I to like work with schools that I've never met before, communities that I know nothing about? But I think success isn't, people only see success as like the peak. They don't see all of the muddiness that comes with success. And I think when you hit those barriers and challenges, you really have to understand the why it matters and why you even thought of this idea or wanted to embark in this journey, and know that failure is inevitable. You will hit roadblocks, you will hit challenges, but that will only build your confidence further, and it's a sign of growth.
Thank you.
That was a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Emilia, and I was wondering what advice you have for women who are considering or want to pursue higher education, more education after their undergraduate degree.
So like a PhD or
A PhD, a master's, whatever.
So maybe I'll start because I kind of went a different way. I think it's a lifelong process. So I went to work, but I had my first master's degree paid for by the company that I was working for, and I did it part-time, and that's one way to do it. And now I'm doing a second master's degree 15 years later for fun. So yeah, higher education is great, but it has to make sense for you. So there's people who are fantastic researchers, and they will take the purely academic route, and there's other people that it's more about complementing your career and sort of braiding those things in.
Yeah. You don't have to stay in academia just because you do it. I mean, there's this idea that if you do a PhD in certain fields, it's because you're trying to be a professor and stay in research. But I mean, my current job absolutely uses my PhD, and none of it was wasted. So, I mean, have a plan, but be flexible and just think carefully about what you want to do in the end and what you love.
I want to add, get experience in your undergrad. Explore. What do you like? So when I was doing my undergrad, I had no idea what grad school was. No one in my family had done grad school, so I didn't even know what master's and PhD were. And then eventually I started learning more about it as I progressed in my undergrad. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to work in a wet lab or I wanted to work with humans. And so I decided to create an independent project. I created a nap room at my undergrad university and started studying people taking naps during the day. And at the same time, I was doing another independent project working in a neuroimmunology lab. And so I was exploring both options that I had for myself. And that's when I realized I did not want to work with humans. I preferred the wet lab. I was so excited to get in. And as much as I loved my other project, I just knew this was the route for me. And then when I did my master's, I didn't even know I wanted to do a PhD. For me, a PhD was just something that people like me don't get. But here I am, and I'm getting it in just a few months.
Yeah, you are.
And so what I want to say is explore, try it out. Reach out to labs, reach out to supervisors, reach out to senior grad students or even senior bachelor students, and ask them questions. Don't be afraid to reach out. We're so happy to talk to undergrads. We're so happy to tell you the good, the bad, and the things to keep an eye on. So yeah, ask questions and try it out.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, so two fields that I'm very interested in are astronomy and neurology, and I was wondering as an art major if there are like valuable opportunities or careers to like do scientific illustrations for these sectors.
I think that one's for you.
I think it's for me. I came to illustration through already being in research, so it's tricky for me to answer. I mean, I started by illustrating my own research. So yes, if you go the science route, you can, if you have an understanding advisor, it's something you can work into your thesis. I would say coming at it from an art perspective, the way to go would be to get to know the people who would need your work. Be out there on social media, get to know people doing the research, find out who might need your services, and build a portfolio.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Sophie. I am looking into like biopharmaceutical studies or something like immunology, and I was wondering, especially for Stephanie and for Lucy, because you mentioned co-op, is that like a pathway that I should look into for that kind of studies?
Yeah, for sure. If you find a program in post-secondary that has co-op, I feel like it's so valuable. I learned so much from being in the industry, like as part of co-op, and you're making money, right? So you study for 4 months. Well, this is how it was at Waterloo, but you study for 4 months and then you apply for a co-op position for 4 months, on and off, on and off. And it was really awesome because you're building your resume, you're networking with industry leaders, potentially at your workplace. You're meeting peers, and you're really finding out if this is what you want to do, right? You think now that's your career path, and that's great, that's perfect, but find out more, right? And I think it's a great opportunity to understand what the workplace is, what the industry expectations are for you, and yeah, to really just immerse yourself in that role while you're learning at the same time.
So I thought co-op was perfect for me. It wasn't until my 5th out of 6 co-op that I found kind of the industry that I wanted to get going in. But by then my 6th co-op was at the company that I ended up working for, and I had a job before I graduated. So from that perspective, it's very helpful. But I think most important would be to pick the field that you want to study. And if there's not co-op, there's other ways to kind of simulate that kind of experience. So you can do the same thing that my colleagues here have recommended, like find people in the industry, reach out, talk to them, try and find any way to just work in their lab or work, in the summer, because you will have those summer breaks as well. Don't just take any job. Try and find something that sort of pushes you in that direction. And yeah, coffee chats never go out of style. I still do them. So yeah.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Lama, and I was just wondering, my question for you guys today is, what was the biggest challenge you had to encounter throughout your journey, and how did you overcome that?
My biggest challenge was me, and it is still me. I am my biggest critic. I am my biggest roadblock, I would say. Not on purpose, obviously, not on purpose, but just, we grow up hearing that women can't do some things, or we grow up not seeing ourselves in people that are in high positions. And I think that it played with myself, and I started downplaying a lot and underestimating how much I can make an impact and how much I can really do. And so I would really say that my biggest challenge is overcoming my own fears, overcoming my own thoughts, and just truly believing that I can make a difference and that I'm meant to be here.
Thank you.
Hi. I've got 2 questions, but I'll ask the first, and if we're good, I'll ask the second. I'd just love to hear a little bit more about your neuroscience research with oxytocin.
Mm-hmm.
So just like a general.
Oh, sure. So I do a lot of behavioral neuroscience specifically. So I run experimental behavior with mice, and I'm doing mostly social interaction. So I do reciprocal social interaction, where I put 2 different mice, One is experimental, the other one is either a familiar or an unfamiliar. And what I use as a technique is fiber photometry. I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with that, but what we do is we record from oxytocin neurons live in real time as the mice are interacting with each other, and I measure the calcium activity as the mice are going through the behavior. So that way we can better understand the different contexts that make oxytocin fluctuate and the dynamics in terms of either stress or social, and so we can understand the systemic in the brain. And I also do histology, of course. We also look at how much expression there is, and there was something else I was going to say. But yeah, in general, that's a big summary.
All right. Can I do the second one?
Sure.
So I work with little kids at the ROM, the Royal Ontario Museum. I was wondering how you would recommend, like, sort of helping younger kids sort of get into this sort of passion, or this sort of, like, kind of gain that passion for this study or this workforce. That's the word I was looking for.
Kids are so naturally curious. I mean, it's so easy to get them interested in something tactile, in something visual that they can get their hands on and see something neat happen, and then kind of feed them a little bit of information, a little bit of why this works the way it does as they're engaged in that. I mean, kids are such a wonderful audience for teaching.
I have to agree. And if you're at the ROM, dinosaurs are a fantastic gateway science area. But kids love building and learning and pulling things apart. And if you're excited about it, then they know it's okay for them to be excited about it. And then they just get caught up in your enthusiasm.
Oh, they feed on
I think.
enthusiasm.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Heya, and I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all your stories. It's been very inspiring. My question is that I hope to be a biomedical engineer, and the passion that's driving me to do this is because in biology class, I realized that lots of scientific facts are based off of the male body, and I obviously want to learn more about the female body. And so what advice do you give me so I can advocate for more female research, and what skills should I develop so I can hopefully become something impactful in this generation?
Wow. I work in plants, so this isn't as much of an issue in my field. But yes, absolutely. And there is more and more awareness of the fact that so much biological research, even in zoology, this isn't even just a problem in humans, even in zoological research is based on male specimens. And I would say just get out there, advocate, know that you belong there, and that you're making an important point. Like, people have realized we need both sides of this, and become a good talker, make your case.
I do want to add that it has come to the attention of scientists that, of course, most research has been done in males and not females. And so it's increasing. And the most important thing when you're proposing a research project is to make sure that you're backing up your proposal with something that is, I don't know the word, just something that makes sense to research in females. And we're always interested in sex differences. We're always interested in knowing how does it differ. And it's sometimes the first question that most people ask at conferences when there's a talk. And in terms of advocating for women, just speak up. Speak up, give your opinion. Don't be afraid, even if you feel like, oh, is anybody else gonna think? No, don't think what other people will think. Just say it. If it's meaningful to you, if it's important to you, say it. And if you need some support, go with a friend. Go with someone that can give you a little boost and just be like, go on, I'll back you up, So I think just speaking up and not being afraid to say what you have to say is the most important thing that has been for me, is just saying what I want to say. And then it turns out a lot of people agree. Most of the time, other women are going to be like, yeah. So don't be afraid.
Thank you.
Okay, I have 3 resources for you. I know it seems like I'm always talking, but the first is that Innovation Factory has stood up an organization called Femtech Canada. So if you're interested in understanding the kind of companies that are emerging in that space, I encourage you to check out Femtech Canada. The second thing would be to read a book called Invisible Women, if you haven't already, which is it lays it out very starkly, the difference in that research. And then the third thing is my colleague Ava is here, and she's a co-op student in biomedical, in the biomedical space. So if you have time after, come and find us and you can talk to her too.
Thank you so much.
Just one last thing, sorry. Celebrate other women. It's not just about advocating for women, it's celebrating women. Celebrate your colleagues, celebrate your professors, celebrate your TAs, celebrate every woman in your life, and that's advocating for women.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Bella, and you guys are just truly amazing. I just wanted to say that. But one thing that Ms. Holko said earlier that really resonated with me is that she finds calculus elegant, and so do I. But you know, being in secondary education, there's only so far that you can go with calculus and self-studying. But what I want to do more is actually contribute to the academia that's out there. So I was wondering if you guys have any advice for secondary students, hopefully looking for research opportunities with professors or graduate students, especially in mathematics, if anyone has any help for that.
That's great. I didn't do a lot of research. There were 7 calculus courses in chemical engineering, though, so we did a lot of that. So I don't know if there's other people who have worked with researchers that could maybe give you a better answer there.
Yeah. There are high schoolers that have come to the labs that I work. Obviously, it's not mathematics. It's more wet lab. But I think if you can show interest and responsibility and determination, you can reach out to professors and ask, hey, is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything I can come in and learn from you or from one of your grad students? Most of the time, grad students need help. If I'm not sure in mathematics how it would be, but sometimes I just need someone to help me score a video for me. And it doesn't require any special skill other than being paying attention and being focused, respecting deadlines. Those are things that most of us look for, and I think I can speak from a supervisor perspective as well, that we just want people who are going to be serious. And if you can show and demonstrate that in maybe the first month that you try it out, you can go from there.
I just wanted to add to that too. I would research if there was a similar role or research project that you were in, that someone else is doing, and check in with that person and ask them about their journey, and explore what that could look like for what it looked like for them. But I'm curious to know what exists out there and who's currently doing it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Harlow, and I was just wanted to thank you guys for coming here to inspire us. And also I wanted to ask, specifically, how did you find passion in your grief for science? And how did you find because after you lose someone, or not even just someone, something, you have a hard time finding a will to just do things again. And I'm wondering how you found passion again.
Oh, that is such a juicy question. I don't know that I've been through a similar thing, but I do, I look for inspiration everywhere. I even have a wall by my bed where I pull quotes and pictures and I put them up, and I'm trying to see what emerges there. But pop culture, there's a lot of really cool things there. And I had another point, but I have lost it. So I'm going to see if somebody else has a point, and then I'll come back to it.
What I can say for my experience is giving yourself time. First of all, I think it's important to give ourselves grace to overcome the loss of someone. The passion will come back, and sometimes what you need at first is discipline. Discipline and just getting out of your environment. So as an example, I recently went through something very difficult. Not nearly as close as losing someone, but very close to that. And I just did not even want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything, and as much as I still love what I do, I just could not get myself to even open my laptop. And so what I started doing is just 5 minutes. Just opening the laptop, turning it on, and just 5 minutes, putting a timer, and letting someone know, hey, I'm gonna do this. This is my goal for today. It's just setting small goals. Don't aim to do a full day of work, for example. Just go with a small goal, 5, 10 minutes. Next day, 20. The following day, 30. Eventually, you're gonna get into it and you're gonna refine your passion for it. And try to start with something that is fun and light. Don't go with the hardest thing to do. And hopefully you will be able to re-inspire yourself. And then sometimes you need to come to events like this. And this will be inspiring. This, to me, will be something that I'm gonna, bring to my life in the next few days and weeks to help me inspire myself and let myself know that I can do this. Thank you.
I was just going to add that in both science and writing, most of the people I know in those fields, it's not just their job or an interest, it's like who they are, it's their whole identity. And I think you have to give yourself time to recover, but you could hardly avoid going back to it eventually. You'll just be drawn back if it's what you love and who you are, really. Give yourself time.
Thank you.
Great question. Hi, my name is Haley, and I'm just wondering, a lot of secondary students struggle with maybe keeping their grades up in subjects that they do really enjoy, especially when it comes to STEM courses, and I'm just wondering if you've ever struggled with maintaining, like, say, the high grade you want to be able to get into your dream university and how you overcame that, especially when it's a subject that you want to go into and really enjoy.
Yes, I failed classes. Just to say, I used to say I am a B student, but I'm an A+ person. I was not the student with the highest grades. I struggled to study, not gonna lie. So I studied in Quebec before going to university, so the system is a bit different. And we have Cégep, so it's like a pre-university program. And every semester, I failed a science course. The best thing or the best advice I can give you is to, again, work with smaller goals. So when I went to undergrad, my first semester was, I just need to survive and pass. Mm-hmm. So my first year, my average was 60%. Let's put it that way. It was very low. Then the second year, I was like, I can do this. I managed to do it the first year, so let me, hype it up. I went to 70% in my second year. And in my last year, my third year, I managed to increase my average to 80%. So what I started doing is looking at, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to grad school or not? Do I want to go to undergrad? And then you look at the different universities you want to go to and check what the requirements are and work with that. Don't go with your own goals if this is a struggle, but look it up. What universities do you need? Which programs are you interested in? What's the minimum requirement? What's the things you absolutely need? Which courses and the average, and take it from there. And then if you need help, go see a counselor and let them know, this is my goal, how do I get there? That's what I did. I just went to a counselor and I asked, this is my goal. I want to get to this university. What do I do? Mm-hmm. And if you can't find it at your school, look it up online. There's many, many people willing to mentor you and coach you to get to the point you want to go.
I just wanted to add, admission requirements aside, grades will matter less and less as you go on. The first lab job I ever had, the PI overtly preferred B and C students to A students because he found that they worked harder to make up for that difference. Develop a good work ethic, and once you're in, and you can demonstrate that work ethic, and it will matter more than your grades.
I think too, the biggest jump or realization I had was from high school to post-secondary school. It's very, very different. In high school, I was like a 90 student easily across the board. And I didn't have to try. Like it was just something that came naturally to me in high school. But then when I went to post-secondary, I was like, wow, this is a whole new world. I'm up against so many brilliant people. And I think though, once I had that realization, I had to really look at my work ethic. It wasn't as easy as just showing up to class and just like, I could memorize this or whatever. It was really looking at how I study and what I do with my spare time. So yeah, that was a big reality check, but it was a really good eye-opening experience.
Thank you. Hi, my question's for Katie. You said you work with like people with autism and stuff, and I'm kind of wondering like what you do with them and like kind of how you got into that.
So it was a summer camp, and an integrative summer camp, and I was a facilitator, so I would spend the day with them and help them integrate in the activity of the other kids, and also letting the other kids be introduced to them and explaining to them the different particularities of my kids. That's what I was mostly doing, is just making sure they were safe and introducing them to the activities and helping them do the games, play the games, and just do the activities we had to do. How did I get there? I found this foundation in Montreal that during my cégep that was looking for someone to work there, and I was lucky enough to be hired to do that job. And I just loved it, and then every summer I went back until I just had to choose between what do I want to do for the future or if I want to stay there. But I think if you look at different centers, you can find a job like that. It's not easy, but it gets easier. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just loved it. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
Hi, during secondary and even post-secondary school, how did you balance your studies and make time for your personal life too? Like, for example, spending time with loved ones or friends, sports, things that really made you happy.
I can answer that question. It's a balancing act for sure. I think you have to realize what fuels your cup, like gives you energy and motivates you, balanced with what you have to do. And I think that's what I mentioned around like looking at your work ethic, and it's going to take a lot of discipline to have both, depending on what you're after and what your goals are. But I definitely think it's manageable. It's just really being disciplined and really understanding how do you feel your own cup and making sure that your emotional health and your mental health is good in order for you to show up and be the person you want to be in other areas of your life.
I want to add to that it's never going to be straight. There's always going to be a little bit more like, oh, it's final exams. Oh, time to isolate at the library with coffee and healthy snacks. So it's never going to be 50-50. You just have to navigate in a way that it feels 50-50 in the long term. And so planning, make sure you anticipate midterms are coming up. This time, I'm going to need more time to study it, so I'm going to spend less time focusing on social. But then I'm done with my exams, and I can have maybe a couple of days to interact with people. And then if it's something that you absolutely want to do every day, I know a lot of people work out every single day, then you just incorporate it in your schedule and you make it a non-negotiable activity that you do. And everyone has a different schedule, but that's the best advice I can give you is don't expect it to be 50-50.
And I think sometimes it doesn't look the same, and that can be frustrating, but maybe like a little bit of something is enough to sort of carry you through, like you're constantly kind of negotiating that. And then I would say the best tip I can say is get a study buddy, because that will make everything so much easier.
Thank you.
Hi, I have two questions as well, but I'll start with the first one. So I've found, even in the very beginning of my journey in STEM, that it's often difficult to stay consistently motivated, even in something you're extremely passionate about. So I was wondering if you had any advice for somebody who does have those moments where they're not necessarily motivated to pursue what they want to pursue. And
Speaking as somebody who's self-employed and I have no one forcing me to do anything, break it down into small tasks and have a routine. Automate it as much as you can. It's what's going to carry you through on the days when you don't feel like doing it and you don't care. Just break it down to the point that things don't feel like there's not too high a bar to get started, is what I would say. Yeah. Don't count on motivation all the time. Certainly, it won't always be there, no matter how much you love it.
And also be gentle with yourself, right? So 19 days out of 20, I am ready to spit fire. On that 20th day, I have to remind myself, I'm like, today's not the day, and that's okay, but tomorrow you'll be back at it. And maybe it's not that quick a turnaround, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Join a program or a community that loves STEM. Like at HackerGal, one of our programs builds communities for girls that love STEM, and it's accountability. Like you show up because you know there's events that you have to go to and things like that, and you're held accountable by your peers. And it's exciting because you're building friendships and you're creating a support system that lifts you up and motivates you in times that you may not want to be there. So that's what I would say.
I would diversify the activities you're doing, just because sometimes you don't want to do that one thing you're supposed to be doing, but there's another thing you can still make progress in. So if you have multiple, like one main project or one main goal, but you have smaller goals somewhere else, it helps you to have them, so that way you can still feel like you're doing something, and just that little whoop gets you to where you want to go.
okay, thank you. And also as a quick second question, as much as I love STEM and the idea of pursuing that through university, I am also considering going into the trades and pursuing STEM through the trades, but that's often kind of looked down upon, especially for women. So I was wondering if you had any advice for somebody who was considering going into that pathway.
I've heard great things about the trades. Like, it is where the money is at. I think it's very high demand right now for women, as you mentioned. I would argue against it. I would say, like, that's a great idea. And again, like, if that's what you're interested in, definitely reach out to folks that are in that space and learn more. But I've heard so many great things about the trades.
Yes, highly, highly recommend. I think when I was growing up, it was university or bust, and I think there's a lot of people that I grew up with that probably would have been more successful if they had gone that route. But you're not alone. Like, it may feel that way, but there are lots of programs. There's this lady named Mandy Ranahan. She is just like a spitfire. If you want to talk about women in the trades, Mandy Ranahan is the place I would start.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Ritu, and I would love to learn more about your experiences taking on positions of managering, whether that be becoming a director of your own organization or becoming a founder of your own company. What are some of the new responsibilities that you had to take on and manage, and the skills you had to grow to better be someone who can take on that role?
That's a great question, Ritu. I don't think I ever, like, my path, I never in a million years thought I would ever be founding a company, let alone a charity organization. If you asked me when I was in grade 12, I don't think I would have ever said that idea out loud and spoken out loud. But I think when you follow your passion and interests that you like, you find yourself opening doors and talking to people that you find more about yourself and what you want to go into. In my role as a founder in ED, I do everything under the sun. There's not one thing I don't touch within the organization because it's growing and it's up and coming. And one thing when I'm hiring people, I always say I've done every single role. So I understand, and that's the unique perspective that I think I bring to the table, is that if it's outreach, I've done it. If it's marketing, I've done it. If it's social media, I've done it. If it's leading a board of directors meeting, I've done it. And you're building so many different skills that will, depending on if this is what I want to do in 10 years, I can transfer those skills. But I think for me, leadership was the biggest skill that I had to lean in. What does it look like to lead a team, a growing team? What does it look like to show up and to advocate for a mission that you're so passionate about? So I would always find opportunities like the one here today to share and to talk and to really show that leadership and advocate for my passions. But yeah, I don't think I was ever prepared for it or could be prepared for this role.
Okay, that was a great answer. And my first master's is a business, like an MBA, so that was part of my growth within the company that I was in to become a leader. And to me, business is just another language. Like once you can understand what people are trying to ask for, or what really matters to them, it makes it easier to move forward. And then a technical background with a business background is just like unstoppable. I think that's such a great combination. But I think leadership is where it is, and that's a very broad term, but I think there's a unique opportunity for women to really shine in that area because the skills of the 21st century are going to be very different. Empathy, collaboration, leaving your ego at the door, that's what's going to move companies forward in the future, and I think I would highly encourage you to explore those areas as well.
Yeah, thank you.
I know this will be disappointing because some folks have been waiting in line. We're going to have time for 2 more questions. So yours and then the next person right behind you. I will say many folks here, many of our panelists will be able to stay a little bit in the atrium after when we're doing speed mentoring. So you will have the opportunity to stop and ask some questions. So sorry for those that have been waiting. So we'll take this question and then one other question.
Hi, my name is Iman, and I kind of have a 2-in-1 question for you. But I was wondering, have you ever struggled with being stuck in that 9-to-5 life? And if so, how did you break that barrier for yourself? And also, have you ever been in an environment where you love what you're doing, but the environment around you makes you not want to be there? And how did you break that barrier and venture out to keep your passion alive?
I can answer that question. Yeah, I've done the 9-to-5 in other roles before my own, and I knew it really wasn't for me for many reasons. I think I wanted more. I was hungry, and I was curious, and I think that curiosity led me to found HackerGal and to out the door with the 9-to-5 and create your own business. I said, right? So create your own organization where you could work whenever you want to work. At HackerGal, I'm so honored and grateful for the opportunity to be flexible with my time. We have core hours, but the team, the most important part is that we get our stuff done. We know what our priorities are. Yes, I've been in different scenarios where I wasn't motivated for many external reasons or my own personal reasons. I think a lot of the times the barriers were in my head. I overthought a lot of things, imposter syndrome, but I think it's baby steps, as a lot of my peers said. It's baby steps, baby goals, and thinking about like that your why, your North Star is really important.
In terms of your second question of the toxic environment, how toxic is it? If it's really, really toxic, then I would just look somewhere else. I don't think, personally, I don't have the patience to just deal with it. But if it's not that bad, and you can make a difference, you can bring, I don't know, an sort of activity that brings people together, if you're that kind of person, then I would just try it out. Like try to bring people together, or make sure that you can disconnect at the end of the day, and that you have another community, another sort of source of joy and happiness that can make it up for your work, and focus on your work. Don't focus on whatever other people are doing, saying, not doing. Focus on what you have to do and what your goals are. So just, yeah, focus on yourself without being too selfish either and mean, but yeah.
About the toxic work environment, advocate for yourself and do what you can to make it better, but don't be afraid to leave if it's gonna harm you. Mm-hmm. Think of yourself first in that kind of situation. Sometimes you have to just leave. Sometimes you can't change it.
Yeah, it's not surprising that we all have thoughts on this question. I would say the hardest part for me was not internalizing it. Like, it's not that there was anything wrong with me. It was that I didn't fit there. And there's lots of analogies about just finding the right place for you, but not internalizing that. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's the environment.
Yeah, you're not a failure for leaving a toxic environment.
Nope.
You may feel that way in the moment, but it's not true.
Yep.
All right, thank you so much.
Hi, I had a question for Lucy actually. So I wanted to ask if you could talk more about your organization HackerGal and what you do and how you can get involved.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I'd be happy to. Hacker Gal, as I mentioned, is a charitable organization that works with schools and communities across Canada to inspire girls and gender diverse learners to explore what computer science and technology, digital skills looks like. We have programs designed for girls in grade 6 all the way to grade 12, and then scholarship opportunities for girls to go to school and pursue post-secondary. The whole goal of Hacker Gal is to really create that community piece that I shared. Bringing together communities across Canada for a shared mission. All of the people that are in our community have one shared mission, which is that they're curious about STEM and they want to learn more. So our programs are designed to connect folks together, build mentorship opportunities, create friendships across Canada. So it's a beautiful intersection of STEM and empowerment for women in tech. And you can get involved by going to our website, learning more about what we offer, and if it fits for you. It's a combination of in-person and virtual events across the country. Yeah, take a look.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, everyone, for such great questions. I think that we got some really interesting conversations here. So before we close the panel, I'd like to give you each the opportunity to give a few closing messages. If some points came up or you feel like you wanted to add something to the conversation, this is the great moment. Maybe we'll start again with you, Stephanie, if that's good for you.
Sure. I think I don't know that we spoken enough about the joy that comes with these kinds of fields. And one of the things that I got to do in 2022 had nothing to do with my paid job, but it was something because I was a woman in science, or a woman in STEM, it's engineering, applied science, fair enough, is that I got to go on an Arctic expedition with only women, non-binary, and two-spirited people to the Arctic, and we got to measure orca behavior, and we actually got to swim with killer whales. So that was just something, like, there's just so many things that you can be curious about and excited about, and it doesn't have to be your day job that just make this field so rewarding.
I guess I'd just like to say a couple things that I wish someone had said to me. Don't be afraid to adapt and change your path as you go along. I changed my career path multiple times in my 20s and my 30s. And if I hadn't done so, I would not have ended up in the career that suits me best if I had stuck with what I intended to do on the way out of high school or even on the way out of undergrad. Like I said before, you do not need to know what you want to do with the rest of your life at 17 or 18 years old. You're also at a point in your lives where a lot of interesting opportunities, like today, will tend to just fall in your lap. As often as possible, say yes, because they will show you possibilities you wouldn't have found on your own and give you other ideas of what your career path might look like. I would also encourage everyone to think carefully about what it is you love about science specifically, what you love doing. Is it hands-on experimentation? Is it theory, writing, teaching? Because there are a lot of different ways to be involved in science, and they don't all take place at the lab bench.
The advice I would give is, if you can find a place, create it. That's what I've been doing my whole academic career. There were many times that I felt so out of it and just couldn't feel like I belonged. And so I created a space that I belonged and other people, other women especially, could belong to. So if you can't find it, then be the creator.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. For me, I think to celebrate failure. It's a long road ahead, and I think there's going to be lots and lots of times where failure will be knocking at your door, challenges are going to be at your door, a lot of barriers are at your door, but embrace it and really celebrate it, because that's really a true sign of growth, and I think you won't know until you try. So it's so amazing to be here, and thank you so much for showing up. I know it's a rainy Wednesday morning, but it's amazing to see your faces, and I hope you left feeling inspired.
Yeah, and I know there were still many questions. It always feels bad to send you guys back when I know you've been waiting some time, but please, when we're back out in the atrium, make sure to find the panelists and ask those questions that you didn't get a chance to ask in this session. So please join me in thanking the panelists for taking the time to share their stories and insights. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. So our final speaker today is Holly Fruwald. She's a research officer at the National Research Council of Canada, and she works at one of Clean Energy Innovation Centres. Holly is very involved in her communities, taking part in various working for inclusivity groups on the campuses she's been involved with, and nationally with Canadians working for inclusivity in Chemical Science and Technology Group. Holly has her PhD in material sciences and went on to complete her postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Waterloo. So please join me in welcoming our final keynote speaker this morning, Holly Fruwald.
So hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to share my journey through STEM with you. So today I'm going to tell you a story of where I started and how I got here, and some of the stuff I do along the way. So just a little overview is I have 3 main lessons I want to share with you about my journey through STEM. But before I do that, I need to go into an in-depth introduction of who am I and how did I get here. I'm going to talk about my journey from PhD to postdoc to now as a research officer, and then I have to end off with some final thoughts. So this is me. I'm originally from Brampton, Ontario, and I moved to Oshawa to complete my Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry at Ontario Tech University. So I was pure chemistry stream, doing quantum chemistry, everything and anything in between. I graduated in 2017, and I immediately went on and did my PhD in material science at that same university, so at Ontario Tech also. After that, I went to the University of Waterloo. It's nice to be back here again to do a postdoctoral fellowship. Raise your hands. Does anybody know what a postdoctoral fellowship is, or what I mean when I say that? Okay, almost no hands. So basically what that is additional training you do after a PhD, just 1 to 2 years, or depending on however long. And basically you just do research in a lab, and it's to gain experience that you didn't get in your PhD. After I finished there, I now currently work for the Government of Canada as a research officer at the NRC, the National Research Council of Canada. So to begin my story, I want to talk about how I got here. And the story starts really interestingly. I did not like science. In high school, no way. You told me I would be a scientist and have a PhD in chemistry, I would have never believed you. I thought I was going to be a celebrity makeup artist when I was starting in high school. As you can see, that did not turn out so well for me. But what changed everything for me was I took grade 11 science. I took chemistry. You know, you have to take your advanced science electives. I chose chemistry. I thought this one's probably the least boring or mathy for me. And the teacher that I had really changed everything for me. He was so insightful. He made the classroom environment so fun. We got to do really fun things like bake appleless apple pies and learn about just the chemistry. So after taking that course, I knew I did not want to be a makeup artist anymore. I actually wanted to be a chemistry teacher. So this is my first lesson, is that the people that you meet will impact you way more than you will ever know. If I had never taken that grade 11 chemistry course, I don't know if I would be here today talking about my journey through STEM, at least not in a PhD capacity. So building those people and growing your network is so important. So I decided that I loved research, which is different from a few seconds ago when I told you I wanted to be a chemistry teacher. When I got to university, I did a 4th-year project where I got to do research in a laboratory, and I decided that I liked that way more than being a chemistry teacher. I loved research. I loved the pursuit of learning something new, getting my hands on things in the lab. And you'll see here a bunch of different things. I got to publish, win awards, I got my PhD, and speak at different events. And I'm highlighting these successes because what you don't see behind all of these photos is the countless failures I've encountered along the way. Failures in experiments, scholarships, publishing, people rejecting papers, and it's very tough thing to go through, failures. So that's my second lesson I want to impart, is you have to embrace all the failures and learn from them. I constantly tell people that the biggest thing or the most important lesson I learned throughout my PhD was resilience. How do you come back from failing? How do you come back from that feeling of I'm a failure, I didn't get things right, things didn't go my way? And that a PhD is really a lot of little failures, and becoming resilient from them is so, so important. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what a material science is and what I do in my job. But before I start, does anybody here know, raise your hand if you know what a material scientist is? I see like 4 hands. Okay, perfect. What chemists or scientists love more than anything is talking about themselves and what they do, so you've left me the perfect opportunity. So I want to show you a little day in the life of what I do. So my background is in chemistry, but as a material scientist, you're really a jack of all trades. So I've done things in physics and biology and math and chemistry throughout my PhD degree. So you really get to try your hands on a lot of different things. So because I'm a chemist, a lot of what I did during my PhD was making things. So I made different chemicals and compounds, and a lot of my work was in clean energy. So these are different transition metals that I worked with. If you look at the blue solution, I like to tell people that's the most expensive thing I have ever made. That little vial costs about $2,000. So it was pretty cool to do a bunch of these things. And the photo of me in the middle, I'm working in a glove box. So it's a space where you work with materials that are sensitive to air and moisture, and you do them in an inert environment. So we make materials. That's one aspect of the job. But we also need to know what our materials look like. So we have to know in detail, what do they look like? What are they shaped like? Do they have pores? Are they defected? Are they pure, round, square? So this is one of the things that I was able to use. It's called a scanning electron microscope. So it's essentially like a big microscope, but instead of using optical light, you use electrons. So you can see some materials. So in that photo, the material that I was studying was a carbon-based catalyst for fuel cell applications. And I was able to see what they look like, and after I did some modifications to it. So after we make the materials and we know what they look like, we can know what they look like in even more detail by using very powerful techniques. So this was a really fun thing I got to do, is go to Saskatoon at the Canadian Light Source, and essentially it's an imaging tool where you can look at fine detail, so you can look at how the atoms move. You also get to ride tricycles at 3 in the morning around this big space too. That's a really fun part of the job. And now we make them, we know what they look like, we need to know how they work. So part of my job is also testing these materials. So my background mainly includes doing electrochemistry. I know just the thought of that, if you've taken a chemistry course, might cause panic. But I actually did not like electrochemistry when I started out, and now I would classify myself as an electrochemist. So make sure you branch out and try things that you don't think you enjoy at first. So what I'm studying in these photos is fuel cell materials. That's mainly what I did my PhD project on, and seeing how they worked. Will they work really well in an actual fuel cell device? So we do small scale testing at the benchtop. You can see in that photo there, it's at the benchtop. And once we know if they're good or bad, or they needed some more modifications or different approaches, we can then put them in a full cell device and use them more on practical applications. But one of a very important aspect of what I do for work that I don't think is talked about so much is we share our work. So as scientists, it is part of our job that we're able to share our work. We don't just keep that in our respective universities. We need to go out and present them, talk about them with other scientists, let people know what's going on. And it's a really fun part of the job, if I'm being honest, because I got to travel all over the world. I got to go to Japan, the States. I visited almost every single province in Canada, sharing my work, which is really amazing. But what I share as an aspect of sharing my work is also doing some outreach activities. So volunteering for things like Science Rendezvous, so getting kids really excited in chemistry and showing them what it's about. The video's gonna play, but that's okay, we can skip that really quickly. I wanna talk a little bit about my specific research. So I do research in the field of climate change. So we know that climate change is a really prevalent issue. A lot of people are talking about this and the use of fossil fuels and how they're changing long-term weather patterns. So my research is involved in renewable energies. So we can't stop climate change at this point, but we can slow it down. So what I do in my work, working at the Clean Energy Innovation Center, is I look at alternative technologies, alternative energies, so things like wind, solar, hydrogen, electric, so all those different aspects of renewable technologies. So I'll spare you all of the nitty-gritty details of what I've done and what I do, but I would be more than happy to talk during the question period or after about what exactly I've done. But a lot of the work that I've done from PhD to now is use chemistry to make these materials and test them. So I've done things in the clean production of hydrogen, so using devices like electrolyzers, uses for hydrogen, so we can produce hydrogen, but then also use it. I mentioned a little bit about fuel cells, and then energy storage, so looking at like supercapacitors, batteries, and things like that. What I do at the NRC is carbon capture and utilization. So basically pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere and kind of remediating it that way. But one thing I want to mention that's really cool about the work I do now is I'm a chemist, I'm a material scientist. But what I do at my job now is using that knowledge and applying it to machine learning and AI now. That's an emerging topic of interest. So I get to have my hands on coding, which is stuff I didn't do in my undergraduate degree or PhD, postdoc, or anything. Now I get to be able to learn Python and code and drive things that way. So we develop self-driving labs to automate some things that we're doing, which is pretty neat. So I want to talk a little bit, or kind of end off here a little bit, about some three main lessons that I've shared throughout this presentation. The first one being that the mentors that you have can really have a big impact on your life. If I had never taken that grade 11 chemistry course, I might have never been here. So some advice to impart to you is make sure you find those people in your life who will champion for you, who will be there for you, support you, and uplift you. They are so important to have going through any step of your career or your journey. We heard a lot today and through the panel about failure, and it's just such a big part of life. So really fail often and learn from those mistakes. The resilience is what's going to drive you through. It's going to give you that motivation to keep going. And it's hard at first, but you can get back up and you can do hard things and you can try again. One thing I didn't talk about, but I want to mention now, is you don't have to have it all figured out right now. I have the highest degree in my field that I could, and I still don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I have a job now, and I work, and I like it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stay here forever. That doesn't mean this is what I want to do forever. So even still now, you don't have to have it all figured out. You can still try new things, experience new things as well. And with that, I wanted to thank you for having me, the organizers for inviting me, you for coming here and listening. It's so important. There's a few people on the screen. These are my mentors and my people who have championed and supported me throughout my journey. And if you have any questions at all or you want to know more about, feel free to connect with me on my website or through email. I'd be more than happy to talk. Thank you.
So we'll have the chance for questions, so please come on up if you have questions. But just before we go to the questions, I wanted to ask the speed mentors, now is your chance to go and set up in the atrium. And then we can move on to questions. So if you do have a question, come up to the mic. I'm not going to be able to resist to ask you, why 3 a.m. on the tricycle?
So when you go to beam lines like that, your scheduled time to do experiments is usually a 24-hour period and 24 hours straight.
Okay.
Well, 24 to 48 hours, but straight time. So you have to work all through the night. And while your experiment's running, you don't just want to sit there. It's 3 a.m. You got to stay awake. So that's not why they have the tricycles, but you can have some fun there.
Okay.
Hi, I was just wondering, have you encountered many other women in this field of work, or does it seem mostly kind of imbalanced?
Yeah, I'll speak about specifically with electrochemistry, because in that branch of material science, I would classify myself as an electrochemist. It is still, in my opinion, a very male-dominated field. At the time when I was doing it, it didn't really feel like it until I saw a group photo that I was working in, and I was the only woman in the photo, and I thought, whoa, this is very stark, what a stark image to see. But yeah, it is a very male-dominated field. There's not very many women who are doing electrochemistry or actively stay in that field.
Just a quick follow-up, if that's okay. How would you say we could change that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the panelists mentioned this too, but it's just be involved in your community. I didn't notice at first, but when I started to realize, I was like, oh, this is weird. There should be more women here. So getting out and really trying new things and putting yourself out there is kind of the best way to do this. Make sure that you make that space for yourself.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, my name is Fatima. I also have an interest in chemistry, but I'm unsure about what I want to do in post-secondary. I just wanted to know that if you have an interest in chemistry in high school, is that a good sign that it's going to be a fit for you in maybe university or post-secondary, that high school chemistry is a good intro representation of university chemistry?
Yeah, I can speak from my experience at Ontario Tech. It was a good experience, but the way that it worked, and I'm sure this is the way it works at most universities, is you have to take all of the science, so biology, chemistry, physics, math, when you first join into some science program in university. So you really get the feel of, okay, is this right for me? Do I like it? And if you don't, maybe you can switch into other STEM fields. But I thought for me, when going from my interest in high school to university, I was so excited to learn more. I was like, this is the place where I could learn more about organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, stuff that I didn't get to learn in high school.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
As someone who kind of wants to maybe go into research or, making things like that, but I don't like chemistry. Do you think there's a way to get around that?
Well, you don't have to do research in chemistry. You can do it in whatever you like, right? So you would want to reach out to things that you like. Do you have science you're interested or some research you're interested in now?
I like biology.
You're interested in biology? Yeah. So a good place to start if you're really interested in science is usually most universities have either summer works programs where you could work for a semester in a lab, in a research lab, or maybe some fourth-year projects where you can work. And that's really where I kind of got my start, because I wasn't sure initially. It wasn't until my last year I decided, oh, I should do a PhD. But having that experience is so valuable. You can see what you like, what you don't like, what type of biology you like to do, or what type you don't like to do.
Okay. Also, a quick follow-up. You can just get your PhD directly after your bachelor's. Do you have to go through a master's or no?
So the way I did mine is I was initially enrolled in the master's program, but I decided that I wanted to do I just wanted to do a PhD. So they have these things called transfer exams. Maybe not every university, but I think most universities have these where you could you do a short exam It's essentially like a master's thesis defense, and then you can transfer directly to your PhD without having to finish a master's.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Hi, I'm Manal, and I had a question about public speaking, because I often get nervous talking in front of people. So I was wondering if you had any advice or how you did it.
Yeah, so I still even get really nervous public speaking. But one thing that really helped me in university is, one, we had to do a lot of presentations throughout university. But we'll say maybe some exposure therapy. There was it's called 3-minute thesis. And it's an event where you have to talk about your thesis in 3 minutes to people that were, I'm obviously a scientist, I had to explain my research to people that were investors and bankers. So it was really an interesting and hard task to do, but just really putting myself out there and trying was really helpful. One of the things that they had us do, which I found very helpful, was do some improv. So they had, courses leading up to it where we did some improv and tried to get comfortable with talking about things we weren't necessarily experts in, and just having these discussions being put on the spot.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, during your speech, you mentioned that we don't need to have everything figured out, and that you also changed paths multiple times, and that you were largely inspired by your grade 11 teacher. So I was wondering, for students who are leaning towards STEM but aren't completely sure about what direction we're going into and don't really want to change a lot of paths in the future, what should we do to get ourselves exposed to as many different opportunities as possible in different paths? Should we try and take as many courses related to science as we can, participate in science fairs, math contests, or take programs and join events like these, or contact people and professors?
Yeah, so you brought a really great point. Is what I did is I volunteered for almost everything that was STEM related. I knew I was interested in science, and even in university I knew I was interested in chemistry, but I still volunteered for biology lab help or physics lab help or open houses, just really getting out there and trying new things. And that was I think that was really helpful going into material science and finding that I kind of like doing this, because in that aspect I got to try every single thing. We had projects during COVID that were biology related during my PhD, and physics related, and even some on the engineering side we had to build stuff. So it was a great avenue to try out different things. But my advice would be to volunteer for anything you see that even looks remotely interesting. Talks. Universities usually have a lot of research or talks at them. So go to those and see what you like.
Thank you.
Hi, you said finding a good mentor is important. How do you know, how do you find one?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I struggled with that for a long time. I was like, how do I know if somebody is a good mentor to me? And usually you'll know when they have your best interests at heart. If they're giving you good advice, or there's someone that you don't really know, you're struggling with it, oh, should I go into this program in university, or should I study this? And there's somebody that you would look and you would turn to and trust their advice, I would say that that would be a good mentor for you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much, Holly. Again, we'll probably have a chance to chat in the atrium if there are other questions. So let's give a nice thank you to Holly Fuval. Thank you. As we close, I would like to again thank Linda Hasenfratz for her welcome video today, and for Linamars Corporation's ongoing support of women in science as presenting sponsor of this event. Please join me once again in thanking our speakers and panelists for sharing their experiences today.